You know, studies show that close to a third of all children between 14 and 18 are giving away something real important.
Access to their social media accounts and all the tech gadgets that they fool around with.
That's right. It's really a dangerous idea that puts your child at risk. ABC 2 News' Josie Sturman explains how.
Forget passing out your locker combination. Teenagers these days are sharing a whole lot more.
Children today are far more casual than we were growing up.
And they're sharing something personal at a price.
I was disappointed.
Isabella Adcock got a tough lesson in oversharing. She gave a stranger her password to an online gaming site and lost parts of the game she paid for.
I said a part of it, then she went on and guessed the other parts, and she got it right. Everything got taken.
A small loss for Isabella, but security experts say the price for password sharing can be steep.
Anything that gives you some sense of security and privacy is now exposed.
But Joe Mason with Identity Guard says that doesn't stop kids from giving out the codes that will give access to their cell phones, iPads, Facebook accounts, and email. To them, it's a casual gesture, a sign of trust between friends.
Not all the relationships wind up happily ever after.
Leaving teens open to cyberbullying. Bella's mom, Tina, knows how easily it can happen, especially with her son in high school.
If some other child got, Hunter's password, they could write things about him and then to try to embarrass them at school.
15-year-old Hunter is tech savvy and knows not to share with anyone except his parents, who don't give him much choice anymore.
That way I knew they're not getting in trouble or doing things they shouldn't do.
But Mason says passing along passwords within the family is often where casual sharing among the masses gets its start.
It almost becomes natural, this notion of sharing a password.
So when you ask your kids to give you their secret code so you can keep an eye out, make sure they keep their lips sealed to everybody else. Isabella does when her friends ask to access her computer or her phone.
If it does happen, then I'll do my password and then I'll say, here you go. Now you can play with it.
Knowing giving away access to her stuff is no longer a game. Josie Sturman, ABC 2 News.
Now, Joe Mason says if your child becomes the victim of cyberbullying through password sharing, you may have to shut down the accounts or change numbers if it gets real extreme. He says everyone in the family should be changing passwords often, and when it comes to your teenagers, make sure they aren't choosing an access code that's overly simple and really easy to guess. Jay?
This is Fox 5 Morning News.
Starting today and all weekend long, chances are you might be shopping online using mobile apps or even Twitter to make a purchase. In the midst of this hustle, you may not be thinking about protecting your personal information, and that's why this morning we brought in Joe Mason, who is the Senior Vice President of Consumer Services for Intersection Incorporated. Good morning, Joe. How you doing?
Good morning, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Talk to me. This morning, first thing I did this morning was get on Twitter before work, and I already noticed Best Buy, other services were tweeting out their sales. And you say that you need to be concerned about who you're doing business with, right?
Absolutely. Well, let me first say that online shopping is a wonderful thing. It's a way to avoid crowds. It's a way to use technology, use your smartphone, your tablet, your home computer. But consumers need to be very, very careful and very vigilant with the information that they share and the sites that they go to. Some of the major retailers, of course, have online destinations. Some of the online sites like Amazon, Overstock, etc., are very good places for consumers to go to buy online and avoid some of the things that frustrate a lot of holiday shoppers.
Is that because they have a good track record, because they're known to be reputable businesses?
They're known to be reputable, but consumers have to take control of the transaction, and they have to be very, very careful not to click on embedded links that may be in a tweet, that may be on Facebook, because those embedded links can have malicious code behind them that can eventually attract. They can eventually lead to malware being downloaded on your computer,
sure,
or other sorts of problems that customers would experience.
Okay, so if you are on Twitter or Facebook and you get a link, what do you suggest? You don't click on that link, go to the site itself?
I wouldn't click on the link. I would take control of the destination and type that URL into your browser.
Interesting. How do you know a site's secure? I know that they're very careful on bank sites and such to give a little, there's like a little sign down below. Same thing for these consumer sites?
A few things to look for. Not all sites will be secure when you're shopping, but when you start to enter your personal information like your name, your address, your credit card number, etc., look for URLs that begin with HTTPS. The S stands for secure. Also, a lot of browsers now have color coding on the browser, or they have a padlock that will be closed to make sure that to show you that the site is encrypted.
Once you do go to one of these sites and you figure something doesn't feel right, you think that maybe you've been taken out. Is it too late at that point to protect yourself? Has your information basically gone out there and it's too late?
Not necessarily, but what consumers need to realize is that their information is extremely exposed, and just living in this day and age, your information is out there. And if consumers take really careful steps, if they have a defensive mindset, they can do a lot of things to help mitigate the risk that they may have.
I know I was reading your release, your talking points here, and it talked a little bit about personal information. You've got to be really careful with that. But I think about that and think, well, if I'm going to buy something from Apple, if I buy a computer today, I've got to put some personal information in there. How do you get around not putting in personal information?
It's really tough. What a lot of the retailers need, a lot of the banks need, of course, is they need to know a little bit about you. And you've got to provide that information, but what you can do is make sure that that information is protected. And you can check your credit report from time to time. You can look at identity monitoring services like Identity Guard to provide the kind of surveillance that consumers need today.
It's probably important to point out that most of these big organizations are taking steps. They have teams in place to make sure that these electronic transactions are safe and secure, correct?
Correct.
Are there any other things that you suggest to folks as they sit down and they might shop? Either today or Monday is going to be a big day, Cyber Monday. Any other suggestions that they might want to keep in mind?
Monday is going to be huge. There's going to be $1 billion that is going to be spent online Monday. And knowing which sites are reputable, looking for the things that I discussed around padlocks, turning your computer off after you're done shopping. These are some ways that consumers can help protect themselves during this season.
You got me on that. Why turn it off?
Because when your computer is left on, and many people leave it on, it's instant on, it's convenient.
Yeah.
Code can still be downloaded while the machine is running and you're not there.
So you're done shopping, click it off for a couple hours. Interesting. Joe Mason with Intersections Incorporated. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Well, many of you will be pulling out the plastic over the next few weeks to finish up your holiday shopping. You should know it is also prime time for card fraud. Fox 5 Money reporter Melanie Almlick has some tips to keep your cards safe from skimmers.
This is all it takes for your bank account to be wiped out.
This is it. This is the whole thing.
A magnetic stripe reader and a pinhole camera are all thieves need to ruin your holidays. David Beach is special agent in charge at the Washington field office of the U.S. Secret Service.
It's a opportunity, just like any crime is. But with the advancements in technology and the abundance of information on the internet, I think that it's becoming simpler to skim.
For many years, restaurant customers have been the primary targets, like this high-end ring just busted in Manhattan. Waiters use tiny handheld card readers to steal diners' credit card information, then make duplicate cards to purchase luxury goods for resale. Now the skimmers are made to fit over payment slots on ATMs. A stripe reader on the false front steals your data. The camera records your PIN.
Gas stations are another place where security experts say you need to be really careful.
Some of these devices are really, really slick, and the average consumer cannot tell the difference.
Joe Mason, Senior Vice President of Identity Guard, says there are things you can do.
Try to protect your information. Be very selfish with it. Be very private to what extent you can.
So don't be shy about being suspicious.
One of the simplest things you do is when you go up, you just kind of wiggle it and see if it moves.
Use terminals and pumps that are within eyesight of employees. It doesn't hurt to cover up the keypad, too. Try to pay with cash at restaurants. If you do have to use plastic, opt for credit instead of debit.
We're talking about real money being taken out of someone's personal account.
Banks do replace money stolen due to fraud, but it can take time, and no one wants to be frozen out of their accounts this time of year. Melanie Almlick, Fox 5 News. kids out of school, summertime is a popular time to make a move. Many consumers take care when packing up a moving truck with household items, but scammers are looking for something else.
What many people do is they spend more time thinking about how to protect their tangible things. Like, how many times do I need to wrap this picture frame with bubble wrap? Than they do thinking about how to protect the intangible things like their identity.
To protect personal information, keep some tips from security experts in mind. Make a checklist of accounts that need to be updated with new information. Devices like laptops and desktop computers should be secured with passwords. Getting rid of papers, shred sensitive documents. And documents like birth certificates, social security cards, and wills should stay with you rather than the back of a truck.
Identity theft doesn't just occur during a move. Identity theft can occur before, during, and after a move, and people need to be very vigilant, very selfish with the information that's theirs.
After you're settled in, review your moving checklist again to make sure old accounts are closed out. Check banking and credit accounts to make sure nothing looks suspicious. For Consumer Watch, I'm Karen Kepa.
Anymore to check Facebook or do any of those kind of things that you like to do with your computer, but you can do a lot more from your smartphone or tablet these days. ABC2 News' Josie Sturman has touch and go taxes and how that doing them on your pad or tablet might put you at risk.
For years, you've toiled away with an adding machine, then filled out forms with pen and paper. My, how things have changed on the approach to April 15th.
Change is constant, and that's what tax return preparation is all about.
Nobody knows that better than Teddy Prelo, an enrolled agent in Baltimore County who's been doing people's taxes for more than 30 years.
Technology has really taken over.
E-filing has made tax time a breeze, but forget the computer. Now you can go one step further. Filing with Uncle Sam while you're on the go.
It's a very, very nice application, and there are some big players that have these mobile apps now for tablets and for smartphones.
If you've got a fairly simple return, it can be as easy as downloading an app to your phone, snapping a picture of your W-2, answering some questions, and then hitting send. But could that convenience put you at risk? Security expert Joe Mason with Identity Guard thinks so.
If that transmission is unsecure, then you expose yourself to identity fraud.
Giving scammers every tool they need thanks to your tax forms. So if you're going mobile this tax season, Mason says you've got to protect yourself. Make sure your smartphone or tablet has the latest antivirus software. Only download tax apps from a trusted source and be selective where you use them.
There are still many public hotspots that aren't secure. And in the event that you are in one of those places, don't attempt to send anything sensitive.
Teddy the Taxman knows all about handling that sensitive information the right way. And while he understands why some will skip the computer, he says the potential for security risks will keep him from phoning in his own return or those of his clients.
I've got to be as careful as possible with my clients' information. I mean, no ifs, no ands, no buts.
Josie Sturman, ABC2 News.
And a couple of other tips here. Joe Mason with Identity Guard says you need to password protect your tablet or smartphone so if it gets stolen or lost, thieves won't have instant access to all your information, and invest in the service to wipe it clean remotely if your device ends up out of your hands.